Well, I think I really screwed that one up. Just wait a couple more minutes here. Is that any better? Alright, well anyway, since there's a couple people here, let's start. So today we're going to be talking about filtration and the different kinds of filtration that there is in the hobby. I guess we'll start out with the most common. Let me just reach over here and grab it. So it's the non-breakable. Everybody has one, everybody hates them, and everybody loves them. Hang on the back filter. Right? Fairly simple. Water comes in, gets sucked in through your downcomer tube, controlled by your impeller. The motor's inside in this particular top fin model. Filters through and goes into your tank. Best filter all around. Most common in the hobby. They're very versatile. This one comes with cartridges that you can use. Typically the first thing I do is throw away. Shove it with some foam inside. Water profiles are great. They're very versatile. Again, like I said, they do have a large canister. Costs are really low. Pros and cons of them. Pros is, again, their costs are really low. The cons would be that you have to see the thing hanging on the back of your tank. Yeah. So next common would be a sponge filter, which I don't have a picture of. Let me see if I can find it here. Now I set this all up. Sorry. Browser view. Set this all up nicely. Let's see how we do here. So the sponge filters. I'm sorry, I'm not going to open it up because it's going to really screw up my computer here. Pros are they're inexpensive when in regards to just having their filter. You are not taking into account the driving factor. For example, your air pump or your power head. They're very reliable. Lots of surface area for your filtration, but they do require an external source for your water movement. It can be loud, especially if you're using those cheaper top fin air pumps to run them. Filter sponges clog easily if you're using the smaller, small or finer media. And they're not very versatile as they only offer mechanical and biological filtration. Okay, canister filters are next. Let me grab one. Oh. The old canister filter. Versatile, big, bulky. Stores a lot of media, moves a lot of water. Basically, they work all filtration works on the same principle, especially the ones that you plug in. The impeller sits underneath in the power head itself. It's driven by an electromagnet which rotates your impeller. This one won't come out, of course. Oh, come on. It's wet. Sorry. When cleaning them, you want to make sure you pull all these pieces out. Your impeller rotates around the magnet. The AC current in your house reverses polarity in your motor and rotates your electromagnet around, which moves your water. Eheim uses a ceramic spindle. A lot of other companies will use a titanium or a stainless steel spindle to rotate your motor. I prefer the ceramic, as it doesn't rust, it doesn't corrode, and it seems to last a little bit longer after a lot of use. Yeah. So for water profile, it comes in the power head, goes down to the bottom of the filter, and comes back up and then back into your tank. That's the flow characteristic of a canister filter. Large amounts of media can be stored again. They do have high flow rates depending on the size of the filter. You can hide them in your stand. That's another pro. Just bear in mind, the longer hoses, the lower the flow rate is going to be. They're very versatile, as you can get your biological, your mechanical, and your chemical filtration inside them. Cons are, obviously, they're more expensive. Maintenance can be difficult, as you have to bring the whole filter down to maintain them. However, most of them do have isolation valves where you don't have to drain your whole tank, which is great. They do have a large learning curve as well, just in regards to learning how to prime them, knowing what to look for your sounds, especially if it's making a weird sound. Okay, so sumps. These are fairly new in the, I would say, freshwater hobby, if you will. They've been typically used in the saltwater aspect of aquariums, as they do move a lot more water, and they give up a lot more place for their refrigerants and whatnots. I'm not a salt guy. I don't know. However, they have been adapted in the past 20 years, I'll say, to accommodate freshwater filtration and our needs. So the sumps, they're highly versatile because you have so much more room. They increase the total volume of your aquarium and significantly, and they allow you to hide all your aquarium accessories in the filtration, be it your heaters, your CO2 stones, your air stones, etc. You can maintain them without having to turn off your filtration system, because you can pull out the media from your filter and clean it and then throw it back in without turning off sound, or without turning off the pump. And if set up properly, you can service multiple aquariums with one sump. The cons is they're going to be more expensive. Typically, you're looking at $3 to $4 a gallon for your size of sump, just for the tank itself, not including your pump, not including media, etc. They're obviously a lot larger, as you're going to be running at least, I would suggest, at least a 20-gallon sump to have any effect. And if not properly sized with proper water levels, you can overflow water if power ever did shut down. The last is natural filtration, which is going to be running your plants in your tank. This is probably the best way to filter your tank, but it requires the most work, the most time, the most research to get it right. So, again, pros, it's millions of hours of research, right? Millions of years. Nature's been doing it right. We're trying to match nature, all right? So, if you get it right, you're doing a lot less water changes. You're going to have a healthier aquarium, and it's more aesthetically pleasing. Cons are, if you get it wrong, a lot of stuff goes wrong really quick. You're going to have to work to balance your nutrients to keep your plants happy as well. So a lot of nutrients, some fish can be more susceptible to or more sensitive to them when it comes to your calcium and stuff like that. You have to really watch out for your invertebrates. And when it goes wrong, it goes wrong pretty quick, right? So you kind of want to really watch out for that when you're starting with that as well. I would say natural filtration, you're going to really want to start off with matching that, or not matching that, but starting that with a more with a combination of other kinds of filtration, right? You're not just going to want to jump in and say, I'm going to start just doing natural filtration on my tank. Let's just turn off my filters, right? You're going to want to build up to that point, if that makes sense. So, with that, is there any questions? I would really... most of the people that are going to be tuning in right now are going to know about filtration. This is more for the people that are just getting into it, trying to figure out what they should aim for or what they should look for in a filter. Yeah. So everyone's being quiet and it's making me nervous. Excuse me. So everyone knows that filtration is, it's measured on gallons per hour or gallons per minute of water movement in our filter. So one thing that most people will, it depends on what kind of fish you have, but one thing that most people try and go for with their fresh water, unless you're keeping cichlids, you're going to want to try and aim for a 4 to 5 times total volume of your aquarium in filtration per hour. Now what that means is, say you have let's just use a 10-gallon aquarium. You're going to want to try and have a filter that is going to filter out 40 to 50 gallons of water through the filter per hour. Okay, does that make sense? So about 4 to 5 times. And that'll be typical with your aquaclears and stuff when it says an AC30. That's pretty close to what a 30 is meant for a 30-gallon aquarium kind of thing. Now, when you move into some other fish, you're going to obviously want to increase the volumes. I know with cichlids, you're going to want to go to, the ideal amount is 10 to 1. So you're going to want to go for say a 10-gallon, you're going to want to be able, you're going to filter 100 gallons per hour. So it's just something to look for, right? Nothing is perfect. If you're running more or if you're running less, it's not going to hurt anything. You know what I mean? So let's see. Don says, I've been running my sump for about 8 months. 35-gallon sump adequate for 135-gallon tank. I would say yes, depending on, like everything is gonna, it's all kind of, it's what works for you. Like my 120, I run a 55-gallon sump, right? If you're getting enough movement out of, I have 15 Africans in my tank. What flow, or how many gallons per hour are you moving? Like how big, it's not the amount of media, it's the amount of water moving through the tank, if that makes sense. So 135, I'd be looking for ideally 1,350 gallons per hour of filtration. I mean, but at 15 Africans, that's pretty low stock, so you could get away with 500, 600, 700 gallons per hour, right? That's a very low density stock on for especially Africans. So with media, everyone goes to the store. You can buy everyone, especially with the cheaper filters. I find everyone gets stuck into buying the throwaway filters. I would say we as aquarists and hobbyists need to move away and pressure these companies to stop trying to sell us these $20 cartridges. It's just a waste of money, and nobody's the only people benefiting are the companies, right? We're not benefiting as hobbyists. We're not, we're the ones that are putting our money into this, and most of the time these cartridges don't fit our needs, if that makes sense. Like I remember when Aquarium Central set came down, like I bought, what's this, 3 pounds or 2.5 pounds of for carbon. I got it for $6. If I buy this same carbon from Fluval, you're looking at $30-$40, right? You can go to AquaClear and you can pay $15-$16, and you're getting 3 packs of, what is this, amino inserts, right? Like, we have to get away from stuff like this, and it really bugs me. And it sucks because new Aquarius get stuck with this stuff, and they just get nickeled and dimed in the hobby, and it really bugs me. And the stores are just pushing this because they have to make money too, right? Whereas, a guy can go in and buy this, and it does the same thing. You buy this, you buy a $2 bag, and you're set for life. You know what I mean? Like, we really have to work with new Aquarius in the hobby. So, yeah. But as for filtration, sorry for my tangent. So we all know that there's 3 kinds of filtration. There's biological, there's chemical, and there's mechanical. So mechanical filtration will be stuff like your sponges, which also are your biological, because your algae does grow on these. But it's just something that when the water flows through, it's your filter, right? So this is going to stop all your larger detritus and your fish poop and your algae and stuff like that. Or whatever is floating around in your water and your filter sucks up, it's going to get stuck in here. So this is usually typically the first thing you're going to want your water to hit is something nice and coarse to stop from clogging the rest of your filter. Next is going to be your biological. So in this filter, which I just grabbed out of my garage, this has got some ceramic bivalves and ceramic balls, I guess. So this is where the water is, your biological media and your bacteria are going to grow on this media, and then as the water flows through, they're going to interact with the water. Stop drowning my cat. You're gonna want to. It's gonna go in here, and then it's gonna help with the nitrogen cycle, right? So that's something else to keep in your filter. I would suggest keeping not a lot, but a fair amount of biological media in your filter, however you set it up. This one's a 4 rack, so that's what I got in this other rack. More biological. One thing I don't have in here is your chemical. Most people in the hobby don't really deal with chemical filtration. That would be more like adding Sechem Prime to your tank to deal with nitrite spikes or ammonia spikes, stuff like that. Something where you're adding another chemical just to break it up. It's not really common. It's not if your tank is properly balanced and you're not dealing with something super excessive, you don't really need to worry about it too much, right? So as long as you have a lot of my personal filters, a lot of sponge, a lot of filter floss, some bio balls, and they're good to go. If you're wondering why there's the superimposed background on my screen here, it's because playroom's behind me, tank's over there, right? So it is what it is. If we get to 100 subscribers, maybe I'll move my computer over there for if we do this again. Yeah. So other than that, any questions on filtration? I don't see anything. I don't think so. I'm trying to think of something else. Yeah, so that's kind of all I had to talk about with filtration. Yeah. I guess see you guys next week. Unless there's any other questions or anyone has anything. I'll wait a couple minutes here. I'd like to thank you guys all for coming out and helping my inaugural live stream and seeing that it worked and what didn't work. It's Carbon Bud. Oh, Damien, you know there's a live chat. You could be just typing in the YouTube chat. Sorry, everybody's texting me on my phone. Why don't you guys just message in the chat? Keep it alive there. What do you think of K1? It's what I ran said of bio balls. So K1, let me look it up here. I'm not really media. I'm not really. I would say it's probably fine. It seems to have a lot of surface area. I'm more of a fan of ceramics and lava rock and stuff like that, just because that's what works for me. I would say if it's working for you, why change? If that makes sense. It seems like it's got very good flow characteristics, and the water would be able to move through it very quickly. Yeah, if it's working for you, great. I mean, I'm a fan of, if you know, I've seen a lot of people that just use sponges from the dollar store and throw them in there. So, and that's what works for them. So why change, right? I think my stream froze. I don't know. Did I freeze? So, also, another thing I noticed in the hobby, especially with filtration, is a lot of people don't maintain their filters like they should. I'm really a fan of your filter. If not every second water change, every third water change, you should be disassembling your filter down to its main parts and servicing it that way. Get all that algae out, especially in the canisters. I find the flow rates are really restricted, especially in the hoses. If you don't clean them out, you're losing a lot of power, and especially since I know Fluval is I'm not a fan of Fluval because the way that they rate their filters, I don't agree with it. They rate their filters on the flow rate, but it's the flow rate of the filter empty, and it's also of the tank being 2 feet above the filter. The water line being 2 feet above the filter. So what that means is once you take your filter, your canister, and you load it full of your media, and you put your power head on, and then, I don't know about you, but my canisters are sitting at least 4 feet below the water line, or 3 feet below the water line. So even though it's rated at 5 to 6 to 700 gallons per hour, you might be only getting 300 gallons per hour because it's got to pull that water through so much, media, and it's just killing it. Fluval's really bad for that. I know Eheim, they do rate their filters, but they only at 4 feet, but they only rate them with sponge inside them. And I think Marineland is another one. I think Marineland is worse than Fluval, but Marineland and Fluval, they're owned by the same company, right? So it's Hagen that's doing that to us. But typically, I would say whatever they rate them at, half to 2/3, you're probably looking at more average of what you're going to get out of the filter. But when maintaining your filters, it's very imperative, especially with your canisters. I find this the most problem, is to make sure you really get into all the nooks and crannies where your water is going to flow, and make sure your impellers and stuff are freewheeling, right? You know, you can you want to be able to feel that free movement, right? If any, and a lot of people say, oh, sand gets sucked in there. I don't think sand is the real killer. To me, I think the real killer is going to be... Oh, excuse me. Good night. Okay, well, good night, good night, good night. Good night, guys.
Were you watching a video of you?
Good night. Good night. Sorry. I think the real killer is going to be the algae that grows on the outside, which is going to create that resistance inside the motor and not allow the impeller to spin, right? So these, which will allow air bubbles to go in there and then cause cavitation in your filter, or in your impeller itself, which will lead to breakdown in your filter. What else? So yeah, make sure those are clean. Make sure your hoses are clean. Make sure your spray bars are all clean. Stuff like that. Canadian Tire has a great, I think it's like $10, and it's like 6 feet long with a little bristle cleaner on it. That's like the best $10 you can ever spend, is to buy that thing just to clean out your hoses. One thing to make, I caution you on, is when you're doing your U-bends and especially your fittings and stuff, make sure that it's you're not pushing it through the hose and then through your fittings to clean them out. It becomes really hard and you'll end up cutting it and it becomes a big mess. So just make sure you clean those out. Yeah. For your hang on the backs, same thing goes. Make sure you tear them right apart, and that's a really big pet peeve of mine. And a lot of, especially big name Aquarius, they don't push that. I know, I don't want to say, but you know, like Corey from what's the name of his company, Aquarium Co-op. There, he says, I don't maintain my filters, blah blah blah. Well, your filters are what's keeping your fish alive, right? You got to understand that if you're not taking care of that, you're not really taking care of your fish. I don't care how good of an Aquarius you are and how much you know about the hobby. If you're not taking care of the things that care for your fish, what are you doing here, right? So, maintain your filters is what I'm getting at, and they'll last a lot longer, and you'll just be a lot happier. Water will be cleaner, and yeah. One thing to also note about filters, especially with the larger filtrations, is and I kind of noted it in the topic on heaters, is filtration, along with lights, they will add to the amount of heat added to your tank. So with that being said is, say you have a 100-gallon tank, you're thinking, oh, how much heat do I need? Oh, 250 watts should be enough to keep it warm. But don't forget, you know, I think this Eheim gives out about 25 watts of heat, right? So, you know, maybe we don't need to, maybe we should rethink about how our whole ecosystem is working as well. Yeah, that's just another pet peeve of mine in this as well. With that being said, it's kind of dead in here. I don't think anyone's got any more questions. I'll give everybody a couple seconds here to ask their last bit of questions. I don't think there should be any more. Don's been the most active here. I thank you again, Don. You saved me a couple times. Yeah. With that being said, guys, it was my first stream. I think the 4 people that are left with us, and I think we got up to 8. So there we go. Not bad for a first stream. Thank you again, guys, and let me know what you think. Really, I'd like to know if I was, you know, let me know truly what you think and how I can improve, because I'm here to help you guys, and if you guys don't help me, I can't help you. So with that being said, I will see you guys soon.